Hey guys, my name is Tito. I make videos on personal finance on my other channel. On this channel, I talk about other things. Like today, when I'll be reviewing the new Nollywood film on Netflix, Weather for Two. Weather for Two is about Kolade and Adesua, a couple going through a difficult time in their marriage because of Kolade's incessant affairs. In the middle of it all, his daughter's paternity is brought into question when his father passes away and wills a portion of his wealth to her and not to Kolade and Adesua. Weather for Two is directed by Wale Adesanya. Now, because this movie is on Netflix, this will be a spoiler-filled review. If you don't want spoilers, please go and watch the film on Netflix, then come back and watch this review. It's just an hour and 9 minutes on Netflix. So yeah. Now, no one was expecting this film. We didn't hear about it. We didn't see trailers just a few days ago. We just saw coming soon to Netflix, Weather for Two, starring Eso Dike, Temitope Olowoniyan, Racheal and Beverly Osu. So, kind of caught everyone off guard. Speaking of the actors in this film, if any of you are watching this review, please don't take what I say in this review to heart. I'm going to say some certain things, but I don't want you to feel like it's a reflection on your profession or what you guys do. You guys are brilliant actors. I've seen each of you in other movies, and I know what you guys are capable of. The issues I just have with this film boil down to like creative decisions and maybe things or decisions made by people like the producer, director, and the writers of this film. So those are where my issues come from, not with you guys, the actors. Okay? That said, let's talk about the performances of these said actors in this film, Weather for Two. Eso Dike. Eso plays Kolade, this married philanderer who is quite sloppy with his adultery, if I may add. And this was the first time I was seeing Eso playing a married man, so I thought that would be a bit compelling. I've never seen him play a married man before, so I wanted to see how he'd be different in that regard. Sadly, his character wasn't that different from other characters I've seen him play. He didn't really seem like the responsible type. He still had an earring on, so it didn't really feel like a departure from other characters I've seen Eso play. Basically, in this film, he was just cheating on his wife with two other women, going from place to place, and pressing his phone. Largely, that's what the character was doing in the film. Not necessarily any fault of Eso's, because I feel the character wasn't written or designed well enough. He didn't really have that much going on that made us, the viewers, really interested in him, or, interested in what his motivations were for sleeping around and cheating on his wife. He was just, at the end of the day, an F-boy. So it wasn't a very compelling character. And when the character itself isn't compelling, there's very little that the actor can do. Moving on to Kolade's wife, Adesua, played by Temitope Olowoniyan. I was a bit disappointed, or not disappointed, it wasn't what I expected, the character, right? Because this is a woman whose husband is cheating. She knows he's cheating, but she seems somewhat passive about the whole thing. And you would think that such a character would be very upset and would, threaten, fire and brimstone. And she did get upset in a couple of scenes, but it just didn't feel like, it was enough. And I thought that character would just be more feisty. So I did expect Tope to do a bit more heavy lifting in this film, but I think her character suffered from the same issue that Eso's character suffered from, in the sense that the character wasn't very well developed. Moving on to Beverly Osu's character, Amara. Her character is rather complicated because, first of all, she had history with Kolade from way back, and it seemed to be public. They used to date, right? And they were in love. But now, fast forward, she's the lawyer or the executor of Kolade's late dad's estate. And that's just weird, that somebody, your ex is the executor of your late dad's estate, even though she's the daughter of, your late dad's lawyer. It just seemed very implausible, and it was quite weird. So yeah, and then the romance between them, and it was very weird. She did, have some decent lines. They had dialogue together. We did see a little bit, but I don't think we got enough. Moving on to Racheal Isaac. Racheal Isaac plays Nse. Her character was quite peculiar because, first of all, she's another woman that Kolade is sleeping with. Secondly, she's the secretary of Amara, who is another woman that Kolade is sleeping with. And then third, in the final act of the movie, we learned that she's working together with Kolade's wife, Adesua, to try and get dirt on Kolade. So she's threefold. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you may need to explain that, because what are the odds that Kolade will be sleeping with the secretary of a woman that he's cheating on his wife with? So that was a bit off. And then how is that woman now, working with his wife to try and blackmail him or whatever? It just seemed rather convoluted, like many other things in this movie. What I liked. What I didn't like. I said it before, character development. We didn't really get to know any of those characters, and as such, we didn't feel connected to them. For instance, we never knew what both Kolade or Adesua did for a living. Kolade didn't even leave the house with a laptop bag or anything like that when he was going to work. There was just no indication of what they did professionally, which was, I think, an indication of lazy writing, because we have to know who this person is. We have to be able to place them in the world to understand their struggle, to be able to know how we should feel about them, whether we should sympathize with them or we should be rooting for them. Very poor character development, even down to their living environment. Their home looked like a short-let apartment. There are no pictures of, no family portraits of them on the walls. There was just nothing to make that house look like a family home, or a home where, a couple lives with their young daughter. It wasn't personalized. It was just so detached. There was that. Also, the lines in this film weren't really the best. There was one line in the film that just made me pause and roll my eyes a couple of times. It was when Adesua catches Kolade in his car, pleasuring himself, and she says, I wanted something along the lines of, I wanted to come and find out what I should order for you to eat, but I can see you've already been served. Also, the production did look rather cheap. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a tight budget. You can have a tight budget and still pull off a fantastic production. But if you don't have the budget, don't make it look like you don't have the budget. Example, the only scene in the film where it was supposedly raining. He comes out of the house, out of Amara's house, goes into his car. It's raining, supposed to be raining, but it's only raining on the driver's side and like the back seat side, the front of the car, like where the bonnet is. It wasn't raining there, and even behind the car, you could see that it wasn't raining there. So that was laughable. That was ridiculous. Another thing I didn't like about this film is the fact that certain scenes dragged, which is surprising for a film that's so short. Yet they spent 2 whole minutes of this movie showing us Kolade waking up from a nightmare inside his car and stepping out of the car. In essence, what I'm saying is that it took the guy 2 minutes from when he woke up, realized he was dreaming, and then he stepped out of the car. 2 whole minutes. That's a long time. Something else I didn't like about this film is the fact how it ended. Nothing was conclusive in this movie. We don't find out who, about the paternity of Kolade's daughter. Also, Kolade doesn't get caught or, brought to book for his cheating, because this guy is an adulterer, sleeping around with 2 other women, and his wife is there, and it seems like everybody knows that he's 2-timing, but there's no confrontation per se. He's not outed. So that doesn't happen. We also don't find out about the paternity of his daughter, and then they throw in that dynamic of that Dot guy who brings a file to Kolade's mom, and then Kolade's mom says that they should get rid of the Dot. We don't find out what that's about as well. So nothing in this film was conclusive, and it just makes you feel like you wasted an hour and 9 minutes of your life watching a film that had no destination. Who should see it? I think the people that should see this film are the people who made the film, i.e. the writers, the producer, the director, the crew essentially, so that once they see it, they can ask themselves if they feel like they really did a good job, and if this movie was in the cinemas, if they'd be willing to bring out their cold hard cash and choose to watch this film against every other thing that's available in the cinemas. Yeah, I think they're the ones who need to watch this film. Them and maybe their family members. And the people at Netflix that thought putting this film on Netflix would be a good idea. In conclusion, I really don't know what the reason was behind this film, and it's not as if they're going to give us a sequel to explain all the things that were left up in the air. I doubt there'll be a sequel because I don't see there being a film called Weather for Two Part 2. That won't make sense. Speaking of Weather for Two, I don't like how they didn't really do anything with that title, because Weather for Two is a very common term here in Nigeria that connotes like snuggle weather, or what's the word that it's called? There's a term for it in the West where it snows. Cuffing season. Yes, cuffing season. You know what happens during cuffing season. It's typically what happens with Weather for Two. I don't like the fact that they didn't do much or pretty much anything with that in this film. And then the way this movie ended is just a reflection of something that Nollywood filmmakers seem to be doing these days, where they make the ending of their films so confusing that it kind of deflects from the fact that the film was bad. Yeah, that's what I think some Nollywood filmmakers are doing. They want the audience to leave the theater or the experience asking questions like, who is the father of that child? Or, did he ever get caught, with all the women he was sleeping around with? They want you to leave the cinema thinking about that rather than thinking about how terrible the movie was. It's deflection. It's a decoy. It's kind of like with politicians who are campaigning for public office for next year's elections. Some of them aren't even fit or qualified to even be the flag bearers of their parties, not to mention occupying the public offices that they're vying for. That's what we should be thinking about or focusing on. But what us, the voters and the public are focusing on are the silly things that these politicians or candidates are saying at their rallies. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're laughing about on social media, when we should actually be talking about the fact that this candidate, or these candidates, I should say, aren't, good enough for public office or even being the flag bearers of their parties. So it's deflection. It's a decoy. Yeah. So stay woke, guys. Stay woke. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this review, I kind of went on a tangent there. Forgive me. Let me reel it back in. If you enjoyed this review, please like it by clicking on the like button, and subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. On this channel, I don't just do Nollywood movie reviews. I also talk about relationships. To check out some of my past relationship videos or my past Nollywood reviews, you can click the card in the corner of the screen. I recently reviewed a good film which also came out on Netflix last week, The Griot. I recommend you check that out, but only after liking this video and clicking on the black subscribe button. If you saw this film, Weather for Two, especially if you liked it, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm incredibly curious. You have no idea. I'm curious to know what you liked about the film and what you even thought about the film. Let me know in the comment section down below. I will be down there reading your comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been awesome. Once again, if you're an actor in the film, or if you're involved in the film in any capacity, don't take the words I said to heart. These are just my personal views and opinions. Don't let them rub you the wrong way. I'm sure in your future, in your near future, you have many fantastic projects. We live and we learn. Just get better. I guess that's all I'm saying. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you in the next one. Take care.